Hello, it is Lynx here, and this video is a compilation of all 7 chapters of the fic A Mix of Discoveries by Zom Kitty 2012 on AO3. So before you start listening to all the chapters, I'm just going to go over some basic information. So the characters in this are Midoriya Izuku, Dabi, Midoriya Inko, Aizawa Shota, Class 1A, Bakugo Katsuki, Tsukauchi Naomasa, Ida Tenya, Baraka Ochako, Monoma Nato, Yaoyorozu Momo, and Asui Suyu. This was their first fanfic. Some of the tags or trigger warnings are trans male Midoriya Izuku and Monoma Nato. Izuku and Monoma knew each other in middle school. Izuku's a problem child, like always. Analysis. Dabi still acts like a sibling, and Izuku would not ask for help. So this fic was finished on January 8th. It has a total of 6,834 words, 7 chapters. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Summary. Izumi does late-night research on how to hide scars, but ends up on a forum for trans people, which is only accessible with an account and curiosity hits. Or, Izuku goes through a transitioning phase, female to male, and this shows how others find out about it and how she's effective and who is supportive. The author says that they wanted to create a fic that had a ton of reactions and POVs included, and included analysis of Izuku without making it a major series. Tags and warnings will be added as the story continues. This is also their first fanfic, so there may be grammar errors. And keep in mind that I am also new to this. And since this is by an actual person, not me or an orphan account, I have gotten permission. So, let's start. Chapter 1, A Doorway. Thursday. Click, clack, click, clack. The black keyboard chattered as it attempted to keep pace with the shaky fingers that flew across it with practiced ease. Search bar. Methods to hide scars. Results. Concealers that work best with your skin tone. Shop now at... Tattoos are often used to cover scars or show symbolism about the person wearing them. It is believed that... www.lifeline.com.au. How to tell when someone you know is experiencing domestic violence. www.discover.com.au. I could take a bit more of Mom's concealer, but it's been making my skin really itchy, and it's almost out. I can't do tattoos because I'm underage. Suicide and domestic violence sites won't help me, and what's this Discovery website? Izumi thought to herself while she went through her daily session of random searches at 2:36 a.m. A non-profit fundraiser site made specifically for the transgender and genderqueer community. Please sign in or sign up for an account if you would like to continue to the main. Read the summary. It was exactly what it looked like. Izumi was signing up for this account under the name of Yami Kumo, the same username she always gave herself on the internet for safety reasons. Not like she was some creep, unless being a major English and hero geek that does hours of research and analysis and may or may not be coming up to like 13 notebooks and a C1 level in English counts. After verifying her email, checking the terms and policies, and finally giving consent to them, account created, loading, returning to homepage. The girl was ready to discover what this site was about. Get it? The site is called Discover, and she's gonna discover it. Transgender. American. Adjective. Nothing or relating to a person whose gender identity does not correspond to that person's sex assigned at birth. She identifies as transgender. Transgender is an umbrella term used to describe people whose gender identity differs from the sex they were assigned at birth. Gender identity refers to a person's internal, personal sense of being a man, woman, both, neither, nor somewhere along the gender spectrum. This term encompasses a wide range of identities, including trans men, trans women, non-binary, genderqueer, gender fluid, and other gender identities that reflect an individual's personal experience. The word transgender was first recorded in 1965 and has since evolved to serve as a broad descriptor for the diverse gender experiences. The transgender community consists of individuals from all racial and ethnic backgrounds, faith traditions, age groups, and socioeconomic statuses. It includes people of all ages, from children to elders, and spans every religion of the world. The community is diverse in how individuals express their gender, with some choosing to transition socially, medically, or legally, while others may not pursue any of these steps. Transitioning may involve changing names, pronouns, appearance, or undergoing hormone therapy and gender-affirming surgeries, but being transgender is not dependent on medical procedures. For more information regarding transgender history, you can take a look at this site, Discovery Bonds Forum /06331055443006.com. Without realizing it, Izumi ended up staying awake until 4:11 a.m., only then having finished reading everything on the site and checking out the other forum. The first of the two was exactly what it had claimed, a site for trans people that included the definition of what it can be, commonly noticed signs, how to know, and what one can do to feel more comfortable, depending on their resources and age. The other site was connected to the topic, but it involved the history of trans people over centuries, the oppression and struggles they still face to this day, and every discovery that trans people made. There was also a space for the community itself that worked the same way a social media app would, with people all across the globe sharing personal experiences and giving advice or comfort. After Midoriya painstakingly stayed up until 4:15 a.m. in the morning, even though she had kept telling herself she would go to sleep early that night, she realized that the majority of the stuff on these websites had related to her. She honestly didn't know how to feel about all of that. So, she didn't, at least for now. It was fairly easy for Izumi to close her laptop and go to sleep after that. This was just her usual research about random topics. So she told herself that there was nothing for her to worry about. She just needed some sleep. Chapter 2. Realization. Friday. It was 5 in the morning again, and despite school not starting for the next 3 hours, she needed to make breakfast and cook a few meals for herself and her mom before she left for her shift at the Mustafa Hospital. She tended to have really long shifts, which most of the time meant she was tired and didn't have time to cook. Once she had prepped herself for the day of school, Izumi made her way to the kitchen and put on an apron. Izumi's hands flew around the pan with her favorite cooking utensils, enjoying the sizzling sound that came from the pan. As the egg mix formed and hardened, she moved to the right and began adding a mix of mushrooms, beef, sun-dried tomatoes, and cardamom into a bowl before mixing it with a wooden spoon and placing it into another pan that was preheated. Around 1 hour later, 6:39 a.m. "Mom, it's time to get up. Breakfast is ready." Izumi called out towards the hall. Moments later, a medium-height figure with green curls that were tangled walked out. "Good morning, Izumi," she said midst yawn. "Morning, Mom. Omelets and my daily meatloaf are on the menu today." "Breakfast is on the coffee table, and meatloaf is in the paper bag next to it. Also, I added a different variant of mushrooms this time to add some new flavors to the mix, and packed a container of pumpkin soup for dinner in case you have to do overtime again. There's a fork and spoon packed into the side of the bag." She cheerily rushed the prepared green-curled girl as she sat. "Thank you, darling. Please slow down with your words, though, dear. You talk so quick I can barely hear you sometimes," politely said Inko, before they both said, "Itadakimasu," and dug in. "See you, darling. I should be back by the usual time." "Okay, Mom." "Oh, yeah, also remember to heat the pumpkin soup if you have time. It tastes way better," she reminded before she shut the door behind her. The time was officially 7:04 a.m., which meant she had around 40 minutes to get to school, but was aiming to be there in around 20 minutes maximum, before Kachan arrived. She grabbed her bag before locking the door behind and beginning to walk. She passed convenience store and then grocery store before reaching the bridge. She ducked into an alley. specifically the one she visited on a daily basis to do most analysis drop-offs. Tip-tap, clattered her shoes. The red ones that she had changed to look like normal ones, but still functional for her type. Other than the shoes, a Viridian green hood and common black pants hung around her body, hiding any obvious details, as long as her head stayed mostly down. "Youch, sorry," and she bowed, which to say the least confused the figure in front of him. "You're a kid? Oi, get up," said the figure in a gruff tone. A figure with torn skin pierced together with staples. Of course," squeaked Izumi, looking up at the figure that was flashed with a black mask that was tight around the kid, and her green eyes that shone with determination. "Wait, are you Dobby?" Semi yelled the kid, who brightening immediately. "Why?" questioned the now-known Dobby. "Oh, well, I have a page about you in my book. I did an analysis on you because your quirk was extraordinary. Here," replied the shorter of the two, holding out a page that showed a detailed sketch that resembled Dobby from his messy haircut to his shaggy outfit. Along the sides were arrows with ideas and theories about him and his quirk. Dobby was genuinely speechless. He showed up here expecting analysis that was supposed to be dropped off at the location he sent, but no, he found a kid who had a full set of analysis and sketch about him, and was, or likely, the Yamikumo, the widely known Yamikumo 14. So yeah, he was shocked. That's pretty cool, kid. I like the format and details. Also, are you the analysis dealer Yamikumo?" replied and asked the tall figure that had an oversized black and gray jacket surrounding him. "Thanks. Yeah, I am. Here's your analysis. I gotta go, but I'll see you around." She then handed him a letter. "Oi, wait, do you want the page signed?" Dobby didn't know what he was doing, but he signed the page before the kid fled the alley holding the straps of their yellow bag. 7:32 read the time. The time when Izumi walked into class with the usual yellow bag swung around her shoulder. Today's classes were math, English, Japanese, and science. Mainly the subjects others considering boring. Izumi didn't fully disagree, but she found English and science interesting. At least she'll have time to think about last night's research with these classes. Chapter 3. Friday. The body euphoria sounded really similar. I mean, maybe I'm trans. Maybe I could see what it would be like as a male just before I confirm anything, Izumi thought to herself in consideration. After a while of deciding, "Alright then, I'll go to the Camino Ward shopping center this afternoon and find some appearance-changing stuff. I also need to drop off some more analysis around that area anyways." And then it was decided she had a plan. Creak sounded the door as she entered and began taking her shoes off. Her day has overall gone well, and she had managed to mostly avoid Kachan, except for the lunch break incident when Katsuki and his friends cornered her in the hallway and used their quirks on her. "Izumi, darling, is that you?" "Yeah, it's me, Mom." "Don't go out today. There's supposed to be thunderstorms and heavy rain. I need to go back to my shift since I only dropped by for some extra equipment." Okay, Mom. See ya." And then Inko walked out of the hallway and went past her. That had foiled her plan, but she didn't want to wait. She was curious and had her motivation now, so Midoriya decided to sneak out. It's not her first time anyways, it's her second. Okay, an umbrella, raincoat, my usual drop-off outfit, and my bag. Got everything, time to head off then. And with that, she crept out the back door and into the alley. So far, it was only drizzling. Beep! "We are approaching the location shown on the map. Please prepare to disembark." A new load of passengers made their way on where Izumi was. She stood holding onto a railing to the side next to a door. Then she saw it. The purple-rotted skin that barely blended into the rest. The black hair that spiked out of his dark gray hood. And then he saw her. A semi-short kid that wore her green hood, black pants, and red shoes. And of course that yellow backpack. "I'm naming you Analysis Kid. It suits you," suddenly said Dobby. Sure, can I, She played around with the strings hung from the neck of her hood as she decided her words. "Can I give you a nickname?" asked Izumi with an almost silent voice. Sure, just don't make it something that'll call out my identity, replied the taller one. Of course, how about Usagai? Stands for, rabbit. Sure. But why rabbit? What about me screams rabbit, kid? Well, it's a reference to wolf in a sheep's clothes, because you seemed pretty nice to me so far, but you have your usual persona. Oh, that's actually pretty niche. Please prepare to disembark for the next location, yelled out the speaker in its robotic tone. This is my stop, Usagai. Me too, Analysis, kid. Where are you heading? Oh, to the local shopping center near here. It has a ton of stores, and there's some specific stuff I need. What about you? Heading to pick up Analysis from another dealer called Deku. Izuku knew that user, not because they chatted, but because that was her. She had 2 accounts for Analysis and forums. Her first one, Yamikumo, which was for information on mainly heroes, and the second one, Deku, which was for information on mainly villains. Both accounts selling info on vigilantes, information brokers, and any non-mentioned roles. She made 2 accounts originally so that both sides could trust her and believe their information would be kept safe, which it was, not like she planned on exposing it. Hey, can you walk with me for a moment once we exit the train? She asked, no more than a whisper. Sure, not too long, I have somewhere to be. And with that, they hopped off the train. An umbrella stood above them, placed by the one leading, the one who was traveling the opposite of the place she was supposed to be going. After a minute or so, she stopped and got Dobby to hold the umbrella before pulling out a folder that was blue-colored and handing it to him. Here's your Analysis. Also, please don't tell anyone that I'm also Deku, mentioned Izumi in a quiet tone. Oh, thanks. Don't worry, kid. Your secret's fine. I'll see you around. And with that, he walked past her, and she began walking as well. Okay, binder, check. Concealer, check. Eyeshadow, indeciding. The darker tone doesn't suit me as much. Could be more noticeable, but it does make me look more masculine. I'll get it. It's close enough. Onto the contour. Oh, they have the same tone as this, so that should work, Midoriya thought to herself before making her way to the checkout. Once she got to her room and unpacked, trying on the stuff seemed like the best thing to do, so she began. Izumi turned around, and then she saw it, and it felt right. It looked right. And finally that subconscious feeling faded for the first time in a while. He looked like a male, or at least similar enough to one, and now he knew. He knew what he wanted to be identified as, now to figure out what he's going to do with this newfound information. Chapter 4. An Accurate Appearance. Saturday. Izumi knew that the name he currently had didn't match a male, so for now he would start finding one that did. At 1:47 a.m. He promises that he'll go to sleep early one day, but for now, he had at least 3 analysis projects due by the end of the week, a new fan fiction chapter that had been done for days and needed posting, and a motivation to research something that was personal, so not today. Search bar. Male version of the name Izumi. Results. 1. There is no specific variant. This is because Izumi is considered a name that is primarily unisex or gender neutral. However, this name is more often used for females based on statistics and can be assumed as... Number 2. The name Izumi means spring or fountain, which can refer to purity. Here are some names meaning that. Search bar. Names that are used as a male version of Izumi. Results. Number 1. Here are some male names that are similar or associated with Izumi. Hei, Ichiru, Daisuke, Mazuru. 2. Namepicker.com. 3. Random name generator. Behind the name. After the 4th search, Izumi realized that trying to find the male version of his name wouldn't be possible. Or at least easy, so it was time for another method. He had no idea what type of name he wanted, so going through some of his aliases to get ideas seemed like a good idea. Yamikumo. Wouldn't work because that's too edgy in general, and it's my alias for an identity that I don't discover. Same with Deku, but in general it would make me seem weird or just worthless. What can I do? About an hour later, 2:56 a.m., the laptop laid on the desk, lying on the smooth patterned material that was a light brown hue, like the tones spotted in cafes. The desk itself was built into the wall, and on either side were storage units, each having 4 levels and were filled with Eraserhead merch, whether that was figures or journals dedicated to him. The platform was held up by 4 stable legs, the back 2 connected to the wall and on top of the desk at the back. The same material that it was built out of reached up to the storage units and was connected to the wall, which was a gray-tinted white color. In front of the desk, there was an adjustable computer chair that was black-toned and could spin 360 degrees, quite useful for nights like these. Nights where the problem child stayed up for research, even more useful for when he fell asleep midway through. Maybe that? No, that wouldn't work because it still sounds too feminine. I also need to make sure it matches with my last name because it'll be weird if it doesn't. Wait, the name Izuku could work. His mumbling was cut off by a cheery tone indicating a notification. User, Dabi. Deku, are you available for a meetup today? User, Deku. Yeah, why? I don't have any finished analysis pieces for you yet. User, Dabi. Need to discuss a topic. Can't do it online, though. The info on the topic is on documents and such. User, Deku. Alright then, are you available today? Preferably like 9 a.m. at the 21/3 alley? User, Dabi. Yeah, I am. The time and location work. I'll see you then. User, Deku. Okay. Izumi. No, Izuku was going to see Dabi for around the third time this week. Overall, this week was the first time meeting him at all IRL, but he has texted him online discussing a plethora of topics ranging from analysis and prices to video games and Spotify playlists. So overall, he was a bit nervous, but not as much as the start of this week, since Dabi now knew both users were the same person and that he was a kid. Izuku had his appearance on, and throughout the few accidental incidents on the train, he was assumed to be a boy, which every time someone used his pronouns correctly, he felt a twinge of joy. But he had to remember these were strangers and he had his hood up, and his hair was still a massive issue as it reaches down to his shoulders. Maybe he can convince his mom to cut it himself later. Speaking about his mom, he still needs to tell everyone. Izuku had no idea what he was doing. He was meeting up with a villain, not just any villain. A villain he had contacted online multiple times and nicknamed Usagai. Plus is also an adult. So yeah, he had no idea what he was doing if he was going to be totally honest. Hi, Usagai. Hey, kid. So what do you need to tell me? I have a question. You're trans, right? Yes? Female to male or male to female? First option. And so it began. Unlike Izuku was expecting for his meetup, which was information and a new analysis task, instead he got his first supporter and a bunch of new tips how to present more masks. Well, time to test them. Dabi had given him 4 main ones, these being number 1, deodorant, specifically a male type and stick-on since those will work best. 2, neutral and or darker tone of clothing, or just clothes that tend to be worn by men, like flannel jackets or pants. 3, gender neutral or gender affirming accessories, like watches or silver type wear, which tended to be considered more for males. Number 4, haircuts. A shorter haircut, somewhere above the shoulders. It doesn't have to be short so long as it's sharp, but having it shorter would still be the better option. Izuku, despite the money he had on the other day, was broke, which meant he could either do a bunch of jobs, which there really weren't that much currently, or ask his mom, which also meant revealing he was trans. I mean, he had to come out to her sometime, so he supposes now is as good as ever, considering she finally has a bit of time off. Hey, Mom? Yes, Izumi, sweetie? I need to tell you something. Sure, what is it? I'm trans. I'm a boy. Inka was at least shocked due to her hours of work and how basically anytime she didn't have work she was resting. She hadn't noticed a change. The sudden change that had occurred within the last week. So what was she supposed to do? She could say it's just a phase, but what if it isn't? She couldn't do that to her child, so she did the reasonable thing in her opinion. What do you need then? Do you support me? Asked Izuku, wringing his fingers together in a nervous way. Of course. Have you already chosen a name or gotten any specific nicknames? Izuku, I want that as my name, and I haven't really thought of nicknames yet. And so it was settled. His mom knew, and they were going to go shopping in an hour. Izuku was glad, so unbelievably glad. He had no idea how his mom would react to this initially, and he honestly thought she would just be disappointed or think it was a phase. But no, instead, she fully supported him and was going to help him as much as possible. By the end of the day, Izuku had a new wardrobe, a haircut that was up to his neck, new deodorant, and a watch that was black and green. Overall, the best day that he could have asked for. Chapter 5. A River of Changes. The next week, Monday. Izuku had woken up around 30 minutes earlier than normal today. He had finished his morning routine, so now Izuku was in his room attempting to apply makeup in a way that appeared masked. His selection of makeup was currently contour, eyeshadow, a blending tool, and a flat-tipped foundation brush, most of which he got yesterday or the other day. Izuku had begun, but he wasn't exactly sure how it was going. He had never really been into makeup even as a kid, so this was a first. The tip of the makeup tool glided across his face in small shapes, an outstretched triangle under both of his eyes, a curved line inwards from his jawline, and a thin line down both sides of his nose. After adding the bronze-colored contour, he moved on to blending it with a round sponge tool. After he realized it was just smudging, then he added a few aligned dots of concealer before then continuing to blend it. Overall, Izuku thought it looked quite well. He just hopes Kacchan doesn't point it out, or really anyone, to be honest. Ouch! Shut your damn mouth, you nerd! Are you really trying to appear like a male? And don't think I don't see what you're doing! Stop trying to be better! You never will be! And with that, Bakugo slammed Izuku's face into the wall. If you really want to be something you're not, then it's the exact issue as your quirk, and there's only one solution for that. Katsuki's hands unclasped from the green net's hair, and then he began walking down the hallway. Izuku, that morning, had confidently walked into class and asked to announce something. After his teacher had made a joke about him likely stuttering, he had announced that he was transitioning from female to male and asked to be referred to as Izuku with he/him pronouns. It went as well as could have been expected. Everyone laughed. Everyone kept giving him weird glances, and a few either whispered or outright said rude comments. Overall, the same as every day, but times 2. Tuesday. Kacchan said if he couldn't even be who he was, how was he supposed to be a hero? A few girls snickered as he walked by. His teacher said Izumi during roll call, and after school, Kacchan's usual gang cornered him and started chanting she. Wednesday. The girl that sat behind him whispered she's sorry, but as soon as Izuku tried to reply, she started saying how gullible he was and how he wasn't strong enough to be a man, nor a hero. Kacchan yelled at him to give up before tripping him and giving him his daily burn, and someone in the locker room tripped him and said he's not man enough. Thursday. Some of the boys from the back of the class started yelling out, "I'm a man," while doing pretend feminine activities, mainly applying makeup and nail polish, which then the teacher for that period yelled at them for disrupting the class before going on a spiel of how trans and queer people are invalid. A girl tried pulling him into the girls' bathroom to prove he wasn't a boy. Friday. Someone had begun to make a trans joke, but Kacchan had cut them off and said it was unoriginal and then made his own joke. He had also claimed Izuku as his personal victim and proceeded to explode him as an example of that. Overall, this week had exhausted him. Despite the fact that he had tried to ignore it, some comments got to the best of him. He didn't feel valid even if he tried to act masked, and was going through the name-changing process with his mom. He didn't feel valid, and he wanted to know how to feel valid, so he did the only reasonable thing he could think of, and he texted someone who shared the same issues. User Deku. Hey, are you available right now? User Monoma. Yeah, why? User Deku. I have a bit of an issue. User Monoma. Which is? User Deku. I'm trans. Monoma. Female to male or male to female? Female Deku. Female to male, and I'm kind of getting bullied for it. ... Deku. I know I should have told you, but I wanted to wait till it was necessary. Monoma. How long have the bullies known, and how long has it been going on for? Deku. Since this Monday, around a week. I'm not sure if it'll blow over or not. Plus, I want to know how to deal with it in general. You're the only experienced person I know. Monoma. Okay, where are they from? Like school, neighborhood, etc. Fine, I guess I'll forgive you for now. But tell me sooner next time. Thank you for the compliment. Deku. school, but some of them live in my neighborhood. They haven't picked on me there yet. Okay, you're welcome. Monoma, okay then, I have a few suggestions. 1, try to ignore them if you can. Then second, try to tell someone. Best if you gather evidence, like footage, notes, drawings, any physical evidence that proves it was them. 3, defend yourself. If they get physical, then you do too, but only if they hit the first blow. And if they say full-on insults, then give them either sarcasm, backhanded compliments, or tell them to piss off. This is just extras, but if you know they have a group or gang, avoid contact and just try and go along with it. Basically, avoid getting hurt. Deku, thank you. Thank you so much. Monoma, no problems. Just remember to tell me if anything more happens. Even if it seems small, I will help. You're welcome. Okay, I will. Monoma, also want to play Minecraft together? I finished collecting those ores so we can start on the project. Deku, yes, join me. Monoma, And with that, they proceeded to play Minecraft up until around 4 a.m. From that day, they also began to grow closer over time, improving on their server session by session, growing closer than just online friends, but IRL friends as well. Izuku managed to scare off his bullies, the occasional word or shove still lingering, but overall, he was fine. Then the incident with the sludge villain and All Might happened. Then the sludge villain with Kachan, and then finally the quirk. His afternoon sessions of Minecraft with Bonamo were delayed but not lost. He logged on in the late hours of the night, still enjoying the time they spent together. He was also still in contact with Dobby, still dropping off analysis every once in a while, but their conversations had gone from daily routines to minimal with how Izuku's time was spent. Chapter 6. A Class Mystery Solved. Izuku was officially in UA now, and he had been for a while. The USJ had happened, so had the sports festival, as well as the Hosu incident, and finally he got a bit of a break. Izuku, at the start of the year, when he realized that he wasn't going to have enough time for analysis, even if he didn't have the strict routine anymore, had announced to his daily forums that not only was he going to be taking time off as his schedule was still busy, but that Yamikumo and Deku were the same person, which had mixed reactions, but most of his buyers stayed despite those facts. Now, since his schedule had cleared for a while, he might as well restart his side job. There was some specific buyers that had messaged him with requests that seemed quite urgent. He would have to get to those later on, but for now he needed to collect his binders. The people on laundry duty had gotten them mixed up with bras for the 3rd time this month, and this meant it was in the girls' locker rooms. Hence why he was doing this at 3 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. He didn't really think the laundry room being next to the locker room made sense, since most of their wardrobe was out-of-school items for the dorms, but he supposes it made sense for their hero costumes and school uniforms. Either way, he needed to collect them from there. His socked feet quietly pattered on the firm ground, the cold gnawing at him despite his warm pajamas. The light was on in the locker rooms. It had drawn some suspicion from Izuku, but not much considering that many had priorly forgotten to turn the light off when leaving, but this time it was different. This was a trap. The door clicked open and suddenly a screech of disgust yelled out, "You pervert! How could you?" Midoriya? Mina looked shocked, and the rest didn't look much better. Ochako looked haunted, Gayarosa looked hurt, and Asui looked revolted, and Ida looked almost the same as Ochako, but worse. I can explain, guys. This genuinely isn't... Midoriya tried to explain and was cut off by Yaoyorozu saying, "We'll discuss this back at the dorms. The rest of the class is also awaiting an explanation." And with that, the group had led Midoriya back to the class, acting as if he was a traitor or some role that a villain would play. He guesses it makes sense, having an obvious creep do this type of stuff is expected, but having the class protector and cinnamon roll do this was a shock. "Wait, it was Midoriya? No way, that's disgusting," came a chorus of yelling from the class before Ida managed to calm them down. "Midoriya, explain. You said you could." Of course." In all honesty, he had no idea what to do. He would have done it back in the laundry room with a small group, but now he had to explain to 20 people how he was trans, and considering the fact that they all looked revolted or shocked, this was just a reminder of middle school. Well, I'm trans. I've been transitioned since the second to last year of middle school, female to male. It wasn't in any of the school records because I had tried to hide it so I wouldn't be treated differently. Yeah, my binders have been getting mixed up with the bras, hence the situation. Oh, please don't tell any of the teachers. I'm not ready to tell them just yet. A chorus of agreements came from the class. After Midoriya had explained himself, basically all the class had swarmed him with questions, which he answered most, before Ida shoot them off to bed. With that, he went to his room as well. He needed to resort his wardrobe, and his energy levels were spiked with the events in the last 10 minutes. Chapter 7, A Secret for Two. A week later. Midoriya had just finished the last paragraph of his fourth analysis folder. There was a big order coming up, and with how many they've asked for, he was on the edge of believing this is a trap. But that doesn't mean he won't deliver. Just more carefully. He had already asked his sensei if he could go out today, and surprisingly, he said yes. But he did say that he would need someone else to accompany him, as he wouldn't be available. So he did the only reasonable thing and asked Monoma, also known as his online best friend. Hey, what is it? What did you wake me up on 9 a.m. on a Sunday for? Well, wanna go on an adventure to make a delivery? Sure, I guess. I'll meet you at the front gate. And with that, he walked off, presumably to the front gate. Izuku met him at the gate and they began walking, but it wasn't long before Monoma asked, "What is the adventure?" It's an analysis drop-off. Wait a moment. An analysis drop-off. Meaning you have already done analysis for someone. Do you even know this person? Well, no, but I may or may not have an analysis side job, so I know the rest, and I always make the drop-off location somewhere I'm familiar with. Their conversation lingered up until they were only around 2 blocks away from the location. I have a spare hood and mask in your bag. I suggest putting them on so you're not recognized. Alright, yellow hood and black mask. Quite fitting to say the least. And with that, the silence grew as their walk continued. Radio static sounded before Razorhead spoke. Someone with a Viridian hood, red shoes, a black mask, and a yellow bag is reaching the location drop point. This is presumed to be Yami Kumo. She has someone with her, a male with a yellow hood, black mask, and black shoes. All members proceed with caution, entering location. Eraserhead clicked off his radio, beginning to walk out from behind the corner he was hidden around. When Izuku says he was shocked, that was an understatement. This was his homeroom teacher. His homeroom teacher who taught him every day and had risked his life for his class multiple times. The same person that was also user 1287645 and had bought a bunch of analysis from him. So yeah, he was shocked and also frozen. Hey, you're the dude that needs the analysis, right? Monoma said, his voice altered in a way that he hoped wasn't familiar. Yeah, I am. The buyer of 4 analysis folders from the woman Yami Kumo, said Razorhead. Wait, a woman? Monoma was caught off guard. He didn't expect Izuku to be known as a woman when he was trans female to male, so this identity had to be from before the transition. Yes, of course, Yami Kumo, or trans male, Monoma said, and formally beginning to shake Izuku to get him to unfreeze, which eventually he did. After there were 3 cops surrounding them, and Eraserhead had a scarf launching at them. Monoma didn't exactly know what to do. Izuku had tears rolling down his cheeks and was shaking. They were bundled together in Eraserhead's capture scarf, and there were multiple officers. He didn't even know what they were probably being arrested for. He needed context badly, but the only ones who had that was Izuku, who was obviously terrified, and Eraserhead, or basically any cop which were currently acting hostile. Eraserhead knew they weren't doing anything seriously illegal, but their information was being too widespread, and he didn't know how they were gaining it. So they were doing a temporary arrest, and were gonna hold her and the other guy in the station until they confess. But of course that included getting who they actually were, which they would check once they got back to the police station, which they were now approaching. The cuffs clicked, they walked, the door opened. They sat, and finally it was time. The reveal, to see who this mystery analysis person was. He lifted the Viridian hood, and there it was, fluffy green hair, green eyes that normally shone with determination, and an unrecognizable face of Izuku Midoriya. This all made sense. The analysis, the height, everything except one. What the other, who once removed the hood, was revealed to be Monoma, had said earlier. A trans male. So with any mystery, Shota dug deeper. He looked at Midoriya's file, not the school one, the police database one. He saw it. He saw that around 2 years ago he had legally had his name changed. He also saw that up until a couple of months ago, he was registered as quirkless. This was a terrible pairing. Being quirkless alone is terrible. It's not uncommon to see them on rooftops, and the statistics show how the majority are killed or commit suicide before the age of 18. Even many trans people, specifically young trans people, are known to commit before 18. So yeah, this was terrible, and he would understand why his student wouldn't tell anyone. But did his student know he would be supported? Probably not, so he would let him know. He had Monoma escorted back to UA while having Midoriya stay for now. He needed an environment with no interruptions and no worries for him to understand this. He unclicked the cuffs and then it began. Midoriya. Yes, Sensei? You're not in trouble for anything. I need you to know that You're not in trouble for anything. I need you to know that before I start. Yes, I know. Alright then, I looked up your file and saw many concerning things. How and why were you diagnosed quirkless up until a few months ago? Well, I am a really late bloomer. Like, I got it on the entrance exam, so everyone just assumed I was quirkless, and when I actually got it, they figured it was due to how much it impacts my body. It would have basically destroyed my entire body. Aizawa was shocked, and he would need to ask about that later, but he needed to stay calm and continue for now. Why is it listed that you had a name change from Izumi to Izuku 2 years ago? Izuku was shaking, not trembling, shaking. His eyes drifted around the room, attempting to avoid Aizawa until he couldn't, and he just blurted it out. I'm trans, female to male, and I've been out for around 2 years. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, and how I got Nedzu to change my student file. Aizawa was certain now, and he knew that Midoriya had obviously had a difficult middle school. Not only middle school, but his childhood in general. And he was going to help no matter what. Kid, do you want any other staff to know? No, thank you. Alright, well, kid, I want you to know that I support you, and if you ever need to talk, I'm here. After that, they had both gone back to UA. They didn't talk much about that topic, or at least not until many months later. But for now, he had also decided to text Hound Dog and schedule him therapy appointments. He likely needed them even if he never asked, which Shota didn't think he ever would have. He would make sure this kid got the treatment and help he could now, though. Alrighty, so that was all 7 chapters of A Mix of Discoveries. I am glad that all of you stayed throughout this video, and if you did, drop a blue heart in the comments. I don't really have any notes because this is just editor links after recording all 7 of the chapters. I finished this last night. I just stitched all of them together. It was a great fic overall. And please go leave a kudos on the author's original fic if you haven't already. And remember to eat, sleep, drink some water, and take your meds. But when you sleep, go to bed at a reasonable time. Alright, this is Link signing off. Bye!